18. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about long COVID, a little bit about what it is, some of the symptoms, and then some specific assistive technology solutions that may help to address some of those symptoms. And then in the end, I'll give a little bit of an overview about our program and our general resources. So for most people who contract COVID, symptoms will, like active infection, will last for about 2 weeks on average. But then for some others, symptoms can continue on for weeks, months, or up to even years, according to the CDC at this time. And in 2021, long COVID was added to the ADA as a disability. And the most recent data from the Household Pulse Survey, which is a partnership between the CDC and some other federal agencies, shows that over 40% of adults living in the US have contracted COVID. And of that 40%, 1 in 5 have experienced or continue to experience symptoms of long COVID or chronic COVID. So this is pretty pervasive. It impacts lots and lots of people. That's about 7.5% of all adults over the age of 18 in the United States. Interestingly enough, I just found that 3 times as many adults in their 50s actually suffer from extended symptoms from COVID, as opposed to, or 3 times as many in their 50s than people over the age of 80, which I was surprised to hear. So again, approximately 1 in 5 adults who have had COVID continue to experience symptoms. And the symptoms can range extremely broadly. A lot of people experience mental health concerns, of course, cardiovascular kind of breathing issues, all sorts of, even up to kidney failure. I'll get more into some specific symptoms. So there's lots of reports of fatigue and tiredness to an extent that really gets in the way of people's daily living. There's a lot of symptoms that get even worse after any type of physical or mental effort. Fevers that can last for a long time, lots of difficulty breathing and shortness of breath, cough, chest pain, heart palpitations. And this is a non-exhaustive list. There are lots and lots of things that people are assuming may be related to post-COVID condition. Lots of interesting neurological symptoms, tons of brain fog, difficulty thinking, concentrating, issues with sleeping, pins and needles sorts of feelings, and some numbness even, depression and anxiety, loss of taste and smell and senses. James was just telling me the other day about somebody who went deaf as a result of his post-COVID symptoms. There's joints and muscle pains, rash, even changes in menstrual cycle. So yes, the long COVID can include a huge variety of all kinds of symptoms, and I think we're still really figuring out what that can include. Obviously, COVID is so new, and it's challenging to put together exactly what's related or not, but we're really seeing an increase in long-term impacts of people who have contracted COVID. Pardon me. So interestingly enough, of course, people who are unvaccinated and or had more severe cases of COVID when infected are at an increased risk for post-COVID symptoms or long COVID. But even people who were not even aware that they were infected in the first place or completely asymptomatic may experience symptoms. So this can really impact almost anybody potentially. And this is also true with people who are vaccinated versus people who are unvaccinated. Breakthrough cases or cases in folks who are unvaccinated can all result in symptoms of long COVID. And the CDC and partners are working hard to continue understanding more why this impacts certain demographics more than others and what we can do about it. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it over to James to explain a little bit about some specific assistive technology solutions that might be able to help address some of these symptoms. All right, go ahead, James.
And as she had said earlier, I am James Whitney. I'm the assistive technology clinician here at MDTAP. So I do a lot of the client consultations. I meet with people one-on-one, whether that's in person or on Zoom. I do have a puppy here in the house, so if you hear any whining or barking, it's probably him. Yeah, so client consultations, and we also have a demo and loan library, if anyone's not familiar with our program. So we're able to meet with people, kind of educate them on just all the different tech that's coming out, and a lot of the stuff we have in our library. We're always adding new things, so always trying to stay up to date with all the latest and greatest. And if anyone wants to borrow any of our devices, we can loan them out to our clients for 30 days at a time. And so what is AT? It's a really kind of all-encompassing term for any kind of low-tech to high-tech devices that can help an individual just be able to participate in daily activities, whether that's work, leisure, play, and so forth. So AT could be anything from a cane or a walker or a wheelchair, all the way to eye gaze technology, speech devices, blind low vision devices, magnifiers, also software technology that can help with screen readers, also note-taking strategies for anyone in school, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the all-encompassing term. I'm going to talk about a few specific kind of devices and tech that might be able to help with long COVID. As you can see, the symptoms are kind of vast, so there's a lot of different symptoms, and this won't be a comprehensive list of exactly what's out there, but it's going to kind of get some ideas going and kind of generate just kind of a thought and discussion about certain solutions to kind of help with long COVID. So with that, Nora, you can go to our first slide of tech. So brain fog and difficulty focusing. So a device that kind of came to mind was a C pen. This is a scanning pen, and scanning pen kind of meaning like it kind of acts like a highlighter, but it's a digital highlighter. So you can actually scan, whether it's one word at a time, whole sentences, or paragraphs, and it's got a little screen actually on the pen itself. So then once you have your sentence or word scanned, then I can store that onto a computer. I can connect it straight to a computer. And it can help me with storing notes, ideas, just bits and pieces of things. It can also act as an OCR device of sorts. So it can read out loud what I've scanned. And by OCR, I mean text to speech. OCR is kind of the fancy term for that. It stands for optical character recognition, but basically means text to speech. So I can scan words, I can have them read out loud to me, I can store those bits and pieces on my computer, and I can access them later. And it can also read words out loud, as I mentioned, but it can also give me a definition of a specific word on the spot. So if there was ever a word that I just wasn't sure of, then I could scan that word, read it out loud, and have a definition of it quickly. So I just wanted to toss that in there. But there are other technologies as well. So also something like Evernote. This is a software technology. It's a platform. So it kind of brings, it's kind of a great platform for note taking, also scheduling, task management, all of those types of things. It can kind of all be in one place. Really easy to access all of those things and kind of refer to old notes, and kind of keep updating them as you want. And also has a to-do list to kind of function as well. I can create a to-do list, and as I check them off, I can actually, click on them, and I can see it in real time. I use just my Google Calendar. I use that every day. Even in my personal life, I put a lot of different things on there. Just so it's not a matter of if I will forget, it's I will forget. So I have to really itemize everything that I'm doing all the time. So there's things like that. Also, OneNote is a Microsoft software on Microsoft products. I used to use OneNote when I was in school. Also a great place to upload PDFs, PowerPoints, and then you can also write notes straight on it, just whether that be typing or with a stylus and a pen. So I really like OneNote. I just found out of a new software recently over the last weekend at ATIA called Glean. It's Glean, Glean. And that is for schools. And it's not on our PowerPoint because I just learned about it recently, but it's for education kind of based software that does a live recording of the lecture. So as you are taking your notes, typing and so forth, it's also doing a live audio recording as well. And it's really great. So I just got a free trial of that. I can't wait to dive in and try that out. But just all different kinds of ways to kind of organize notes and just kind of stay just on top of your daily schedule and things like that. So if anyone has questions about anything I just mentioned, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and anyone is able to reach out to me personally, and I can elaborate and also talk about other things that are out there as well. And with that, Nora, we can go on to the next slide. And I see a couple things in the chat saying Glean is great, been using it for 3 years, students love it. And then Joan had also mentioned a lot of universities have started using Glean, so that's really great to hear that it's being implemented. So also other things, just like memory challenges. So that kind of ties into a little bit to what I was just saying with scheduling and things like that, but a little bit more specifically with like medication reminders. So there's all different kinds of medication reminders. We've all seen low tech ones that have like a Sunday through Monday, that just a pill box, right? So there are things like that, but then you can also have also medication reminders that can actually beep. Also ones that can speak out loud for anyone who's blind or low vision. And that can really give you just a few different ways to kind of interact with this device and have that kind of input. There's also other ones at the top left corner of this slide. This is, it's by Live Fine. And this is the Med Alert system. It's got a lot of different places to store different medications that are for different times of the day, let's say. So there, so I could set multiple alarms for all these different cartridges, and then it's going to twist, as that alarm goes off, it'll twist, then it will present that medication, whether it's AM, PM, or afternoon. It'll twist to that, it'll start beeping, and it won't stop beeping actually until I dump it out in my hand. So there are a few different companies that make kind of like similar devices, but the Med Alert specifically that I'm referring to, it won't stop beeping until you actually dump the medication out in your hand. So I'm a big snooze button guy in the morning, and I know other people might be similar in that, even with medication. So you can't just snooze this one. So it's a great way to kind of get the meds in your hand, and then you are much more likely to take the meds if they are dispensed in your hand, as opposed to snoozing and walking away. And you're also able to set up a lot at once. So it can so I don't have to do it, every day or week even. I mean, it just depends on how many meds you're taking as to how much you're able to fill in these cartridges. Also kind of, Evernote and scheduling apps, there is a lot of scheduling apps out there for iOS and Android OS products. So that there's lots and lots of different ones. And also I'd be happy to talk to people about specifics, but scheduling apps are great, all shapes and sizes, keeping an itemized list of your tasks, daily activities, workflow, and all that good stuff. And even things like a whiteboard. I'm kind of old school in that some ways. It's nice to just have a whiteboard on the wall and writing out just all of your daily tasks or just things that are coming up. And so you don't miss appointments, doctor's appointments, and things like that. So that's all things to think about here.
James, somebody mentioned in the chat that they would love if you could give some price range examples of some of these.
Price range. So things like Glean is a subscription based. I believe Evernote is as well. So that would be a subscription based platform. I'm not exactly sure on the pricing, so I'm not going to say it if I'm not sure. I don't want to just give out false information. I can't remember how much the Med alerts cost, but I will believe around $100 if I can remember correctly. I would say $100 or less. But as we continue on with this, I will try to offer that kind of insight if I know off the top of my head. Always trying to juggle all these prices and the tech devices. Sometimes I can get mixed up here, but I can certainly look that up and get back to you after his presentation is concluded as well. So absolutely, Sammy. I appreciate that question there. And then Joan Green also typed in the chat. Glean's about $130 a year per individual, and universities and just other organizations might be able to get some kind of subscription. I'm not sure how that works for those price ranges. But with that, we can go to the next slide here. So talking about fatigue and loss of energy, smart home technology is a great way to kind of bridge that. And I'm sure we've all I don't know about everybody, but a lot of us have probably heard of smart home technology to some extent, and things like Amazon Alexa or the OK Google also has software that you're able to modify your home and make things smart. And smart meaning, I can use a central smart hub like the Alexa machine. I can use her to also interact with parts of my environment in my house or even office and so forth. So it's a really great way to make things more accessible. It can save you a trip of getting up and doing every little thing, like even turning light fixtures on and off, or also closing blinds, or kind of anything like that. I can use my voice and I can have my smart home be able to do that thing for me. So even things like locking my door, Ring cameras and doorbells exist now, even with intercom systems that go two ways. So, if I was upstairs in my bedroom, someone rings the doorbell, I could actually communicate with them through that intercom system. So if somebody had a package that they were dropping off, I could say, leave it at the door. I'll be down in 5 or 10 minutes. Or I could even unlock the door if it's somebody I know and trust. I want to let them inside the house. Then on my phone, I can connect to that door. I can open up that smart lock system without having to actually go downstairs, open up the door myself. So this is kind of a way to help save and conserve energy and not expend it in all these small things throughout the day, but hold on to that energy and use it for your, certain meaningful tasks that you might want to hold on to. So also things like smart plugs. A smart plug plugs into an outlet, but then it is an outlet in and of itself. So meaning I can plug something into the smart plug that's into the wall. I would connect that smart plug to my, let's say, Alexa account. I would be on the Alexa app on my phone or tablet. So it would require a phone or tablet with the Alexa app, as well as an Alexa hub unit. So whether that be the Echo Dot or the Echo Show or something like that, it would require those two pieces. And then I can start connecting any kind of device that I buy that's compatible with that software. So Amazon has a lot of stuff out there. Most things are compatible with the Amazon Alexa. If you buy Google products, some of those might only be compatible with Google. Some are compatible with both. Definitely something I would want to look into ahead of time, prior to buying any of these peripheral devices. But then a smart plug, once connected to my Alexa app, I can name that plug. I could name it kitchen lamp, or I guess bedroom lamp might make more sense. Or I could name it, any kind of appliance that I'm plugging in. And then I can also tag that with a verbal command. So if it was my bedroom lamp, I could say, hey, Alexa, turn on bedroom lamp, and she will enable that on. And then vice versa, I could say, Alexa, turn off lamp. So this could be a way to interact with things like fans, lamps, appliances. Honestly, anything that plugs into an outlet that turns on or off can be now controlled with a voice command. So the sky really is the limit. If it turns on and off, and that's the function that's meaningful, is powering it on or off, like a fan or lamp, and things like that, then I can now use my voice too connected to that as well. And also things like smart thermostats. I can change the temperature in my house with the, I know Google has the Nest. It's called Google Nest, and that's kind of just a main house unit for just environmental control, like temperature and things like that. So there's a lot of things out there. I haven't mentioned them all. Obviously, there's a lot of smart home just possibilities out there that can help conserve energy and save people trips around the house, up and down stairs and things like that, as long COVID can really impact fatigue. And I know a lot of the people I've spoken to who've had COVID, the symptoms are, man, I'm wiped out. So I can only imagine with long COVID, that might not get better. And then you have weeks and weeks, maybe months of just extreme fatigue. So having ways to cope is a great way to help conserve energy. And with that, Nora, we can go on to the next unit here. So also for any kind of health things, heart symptoms, dizziness, you might be lightheaded when you stand up, having low blood pressure, and I'll talk about other kind of health monitoring systems as well, just to kind of track that. A great thing to kind of stay on top of your blood pressure and things like that as well, and just checking in with yourself. If you can't go to a doctor frequently and kind of check up on that, but having like something like a personal emergency response system. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen commercials for things like Life Alert, and that's kind of what, more or less kind of what these things do. We have a couple different options here that I will talk about more specifically, but it's a way that I can press a button and I can get somebody on the other line, whether I've fallen down, fainted, and things like that. So I know Sky Angel 911, which is the second one listed here on the bottom. That's got a button right there. I can press that and I can speak with 911. It actually has a two-way intercom on it. So I don't have to get up and find my phone and scramble around the house. I can press that button. I can have a conversation with 911. It's also got GPS technology into it as well. So for other reasons, it might not even be long COVID related, but for any kind of wandering or elopement, then I could have a GPS on this attached to a loved one. So if I was unsure of where they were, I could check in with them and see exactly where they are. But the benefit of these two things, and they both have this, is that they have fall detection technology as well. And that meaning they have built-in accelerometers within them. Accelerometer meaning it's able to overall sense a change in acceleration or movement. So from me standing upright, walking around the house, I'm going to move at a pretty consistent acceleration throughout the day. But if there was a fall or something that happened to take place, it can actually pick up on that change of acceleration, kind of a rapid change. Then it can actually pick up on that, and then it can help alert somebody, 911 or a friend or family, that a fall's taken place. I'm not getting any response from them through the intercom. I would say My Notify. I don't believe that one has an intercom system built into it. Sky Angel does. But just a great way to just try to keep yourself safe and have the means necessary that if there was an accident to occur, that I could have help on the way. And there are other ones as well that do exist. That doesn't have to call 911. I could program it that it could call a friend or family or someone else first. So I could set up a series of phone calls to take place. So if nobody answers, then the last one would be 911. So there are other systems that do things like that as well. But yeah, it's just definitely important to have the means to connect with a health professional when in a overall emergency. And with that, we can go to the next slide. So yeah, so tracking your health. So there are ways to get pulse ox, blood pressure cuffs. They do make these that can speak out loud what the reading would be for anyone blind or low vision. And then also both of these have a screen on them as well, so that if anyone's deaf or hard of hearing, you could read your reading. Blind, low vision, it could speak it out to you, and so on. But yeah, a lot of these aren't too much money. I would say for a blood pressure cuff, we actually just got a few of these in that have a reading LCD screen, and they also speak it out loud as well. And I would say they're around $40-$50 for the blood pressure cuff. The pulse ox might even be slightly less than that. I would say $25-$30. And that's a great way just to keep track of those things. If you do have a rapid drop in blood pressure, and if you can kind of realize like when that might happen, if it's whether you're standing up or any other part of the day, maybe you haven't eaten a meal in a while, then that can help you kind of track those things, and just stay on track of just what might trigger those drops in blood pressure and so forth. But yeah, always a great thing to kind of keep in mind. And also things like anxiety and depression, excuse me. So having things like light therapy lamps, they actually mimic what sunlight would be. So in those long, cold winter nights or days, even, we're starting to get longer days now, but a stretch there, the sun was setting at like 4 p.m. So we have less daylight. And that can definitely trigger people to feel, a little bit depressed, sad, and things like that. And then also with long COVID, you might have feelings of isolation. You might be stuck in your house. You're too fatigued to go and do the things you normally went. Maybe that's go to the gym, maybe your church or other social groups, book clubs, and things like that. It can definitely get you down, and increased anxiety. And increased anxiety can also trigger other things with health. So having light therapy lamps is just one kind of quirky quick fix to kind of create your own light in the house and kind of trick your brain into thinking that there is more light, and that could boost mood. And also things like the Amazon Echo Show. So we were talking about this earlier. Sorry, this puppy's chewing on my shoes. So we were talking about Amazon Echo Shows earlier. And they have a drop-in feature. And the drop-in feature is a way to kind of connect with anybody. So in my Amazon app, I can actually approve certain individuals. I would approve them ahead of time, and then I can grant them drop-in permission. And drop-in permission would be is that I don't have to answer the phone. I could just enable them to drop in on me. So if I had the Echo Show is pictured there at the bottom, which comes with an LCD screen, so it almost mimics what FaceTime would be. So if I FaceTime with someone else, I'm having a video chat with them, or Zoom or Google Meets and otherwise. A great way to connect with others, and kind of ease that kind of feeling of isolation. So having a drop-in feature is a great way to enable someone to kind of pop in, talk with friends and family, but there are other means to be able to do that as well. I just gave a presentation on social isolation and technology that can help combat that, and I'd be happy to share that with anyone who would like. I can share that PDF file, but I went into all different kinds of tech and certain solutions, free, subscription, and otherwise, that can help with feelings of isolation. So there's a lot of different things out there that can help with just connecting with your churches and social groups, loved ones, family, friends, without having to actually leave the home. There's a lot of ways to kind of stay connected and stay engaged, and also just enable play and fun and leisure as well. Online games and so forth that you are also able to play alone or play with others. But yeah, there's a lot of things out there for isolation. And we can go to the next slide.
Wait, can we take a question? We've got a hand up from David Goodman.
Sure.
Right. Go ahead, David.
And if you are speaking, you are on mute. Or if typing in the chat's easier, that works for us, but you are muted right now. So if there was a question, we don't mind hearing it at this moment, or I can connect with you at the end as well.
Okay. Let's move on for now, but feel free to put your question in the chat at any time, David, or we can take it at the end.
Yeah, I will leave time at the end. Nora and I both will. So we'll have 5-10 minutes at the end and kind of go over any questions and close. So also talking about other things for anxiety and depression, isolation. So we just talked about, Amazon Show and being able to connect with others through a video chat. But there are other things as well, like doing like yoga, working out. Here's a few different kind of resources here as well. But there's online classes, whether that be live or pre-recorded, that you can access in an archive. I know YMCA, if you are a member, they have a lot of archived classes and things like that that you can access. And they also do live classes as well. Also Peloton, all kinds of live classes if you're a member. So I think that is subscription based. Or if you buy a Peloton bike, you might get access. I'm not sure, I don't have one, but you can definitely access those either way, but you might have to pay a fee for certain ones. But there are a lot of free things out there too. You can also YouTube and come up with almost any workout that you want. There's always people putting out content, whether it's physical therapists or just health just health and workout nuts and so forth. There's a lot of content that you can Google on YouTube. And also learning, education, a lot of things are virtual now. So, if you were kind of just at home or, still getting over the a long COVID spell and so forth, you might not be out and about, but almost every kind of educational system will have some version of online learning. And there's even just fun online learning, even things like museums, libraries, they oftentimes have an online section. As people are kind of getting further and further away from hardback books, not completely, but almost everything has a version online that you can access. And also Amazon, you can order almost anything online now and it'll come to you typically within like a day or two. But yeah, anything like that, books and so forth, there is ways to just get that delivered straight to your house and be able to keep your brain engaged, stay having fun, stay just doing things and trying to decrease anxiety and depression and still interacting with social groups, book clubs, and on and on. But here are a few different ones that we were able to find online of just different classes for exercise and mindfulness, meditation, and things like that. And we can go to
great.
the
And
next
Nadine
slide.
says Libby and Hoopla are free apps. You can check out movies, books, magazines. I just learned about Libby recently, and it's connected to your library card. So that's a good resource too.
Awesome. Great input there. Thank you, Nadine. And also virtual outings. So I kind of just, briefly touched over a couple, but even like the Baltimore Aquarium has a virtual tour. I know San Diego Zoo does as well. A lot of other zoos and things of that nature have virtual versions of them. Even the Met and in New York, they have a 360-degree project. So you can actually, it's like you're there, it's like a virtual reality type kind of view. And you can actually pan around and explore the exhibit on your computer. So there are a lot of different things like that, even opera, music, concerts, oftentimes live streamed. So I know a lot of people tune into concerts just live streaming it, whether that's free or you have to pay like a $20 fee just to access it. But there are a whole lot of things to access that way as well. That can be almost totally virtual. And even things like VR, which is virtual reality headsets that you can buy, just like the Oculus and so forth. There are a lot of different apps and games and also things that are online based, so I can connect with friends and family and we can interact and play the same game. Even like Words with Friends, chess, even like pool. A lot of that stuff's even just right on your texting. If you have an iPhone, that is. I'm an iPhone guy. And there's a lot of games that you can access and you can like text your move. So if I'm playing chess with someone, I move the knight, to E4, then I text that, then it takes that and sends it to whoever I'm playing with, and then they can then respond and you can go back and forth. And that's a really easy way to interact with games, just right there. But there's so much out there. So if anyone has any questions about online gaming or other social isolation tech, apps, websites, I do have a pretty comprehensive, obviously not total, but I do have a good slide deck for that. And I'd be happy to share that with anyone. And we can go to the next slide. That may conclude our tech for today about that stuff. And I'll pass it back to Nora and we'll close and take questions. And thanks for being here and hearing me talk.
Great. Thank you so much, James.
Sure.
Yeah, and really quick, if there's any pressing questions for James about the specific tech he was talking about, feel free to drop it in the chat now. But I will move on and just give you some general information about our program, what we do. So we are the Maryland Assistive Technology Program. We are one of 56 AT Act programs in the country, is what they're called. Every US state and territory has an AT Act program. And yes, I will send out a copy of the slide deck to all of the participants after we finish. And I have a little companion document that just kind of revisits a bite-sized information about the presentation. But Maryland Assistive Technology Program exists really to spread information, awareness, and greater access to assistive technology to everyone in Maryland, anyone of any age with any kind of disability, and people who work with and support them. And we do this through a variety of different ways, including mostly equipment loans and demonstrations. I know James was talking about our equipment loan library earlier. We have hundreds and hundreds, possibly thousands of different devices available for loan. And James is extremely knowledgeable and wonderful at giving consultations, figuring out what's going to work for people the best. And we have a financial loan program that recently the cap has been expanded to $70,000 for certain things like adapted vehicles and non-adapted vehicles, but a loan can be used for almost anything under the sun that can support your disability. And we do lots of training. We have tons of sessions like this one on our YouTube channel. You can find a lot of recorded webinars that we've provided in the past. And on our website, you can find a list of upcoming webinars if you're interested in checking that out. Let's see how we're doing on time. All right. This is a great little just sort of overview of our program. It's not going to go over anything that I don't, but it's, I think, nice to put some faces to the names and just kind of see our team. So I'm going to play that. Please let me know if the sound is not working.
I don't think that enough people know about a resource like this. It's like Maryland's best kept secret is that we're here.
So Maryland TAP is the Technology Assistance Program.
We provide services to folks with all disabilities and all age ranges. So we run a pretty broad spectrum of assistive technology services. That includes things like equipment libraries, equipment demonstrations, consultations. We do training.
Oops, sorry about that. One moment. The videos always go wrong somewhere. I'll just move on from there. But yes, you can kind of get a sense of what the library looks like, who some of our staff members are. And in addition to our most robust AT library, which is in our office in Northeast Baltimore City, right near Morgan State University, we have 9 additional community libraries hosted mostly at the different centers for independent living around Maryland. And one is at one of the ARC locations. So these are smaller libraries of technology. They don't have quite the array of things that we have in our main library, but they, are located regionally all around the state. So if somebody wants to come in person and have sort of a demonstration of devices that they do have at one of these community libraries and talk with an AT specialist about some options in person, they can certainly do that. And as I mentioned, we have customized consultations with our wonderful clinician, James, and our specialist, Denise. And increasingly, as with everything, they've been providing these virtually as well as in person. So really, we try to make everything, all of our services, as accessible as possible to everyone. And device loans, that meaning things that can be borrowed from our library, usually people can keep them for 1 month at a time. And most of these devices can also be shipped directly through the mail if it's difficult to get in person down to our location. Again, we host lots of in-depth different types of sessions covering a wide variety of sort of AT topics, both in person and virtually. We do lots of events. A couple of examples of events that we do. One really great one is an inclusive gaming night that we do, I'd say, a couple times a year at this point, where we set up an array of TVs and gaming equipment like Xboxes and PlayStations and I'm not a gamer, so I'm gonna fumble this, but you know, all kinds of gaming equipment as well as tabletop games. And we have both adaptive equipment and controllers and standard. So anybody who likes gaming can just come and play together. And these are really well attended typically and really fun events. We do a financial resiliency series of webinars in every October. So we invite professionals who are experts in a lot of different kinds of programs and services that can help folks with disabilities build their financial literacy and just be more financially resilient and aware. And so those are wonderful. We have a lot of those sessions recorded on our YouTube channel if you'd want to check that out. And here on this slide are links to our different community assistive technology libraries. As I mentioned, most of them are in the different centers for independent living around the state. And the only one we're looking, we cover every region in Maryland with these libraries, except I think we're looking to form a new contract with somebody on the Eastern Shore right now, but we're working on that. And here's the rest of them. Just a couple of years ago, our AT specialist started the first high-tech assistive technology reuse center that we are aware of exists at all in the state. I mean, in the country, pardon me. And so this functions as a donation-based program where she can accept donations of gently used equipment, and her team can refurbish and sanitize the equipment and then make it available for long-term extended loans for people who can't otherwise access those things. A lot of other loan closets exist in Maryland, but most of them are geared more towards durable medical equipment. So that would be things like wheelchairs, walkers, different kinds of mobility aids, hospital beds, transfer equipment, things like that. Whereas our reuse center, which is located in Howard County, in the same building as the Howard County Loan Closet, is focused on more of the kinds of things that we would have in our library. So things like Braille note takers, assisted listening devices, eye devices, amplified telephones, voice amplifiers, different kinds of adaptive peripherals for computer access, and things like that, maybe magnifiers. And you can visit the location by appointment. So there's contact information down at the bottom of this slide if you're interested in seeing what they have, learning more about that program. And there is also on our website a link to an online inventory of the reuse program. The acronym is MATTER. And that's a pretty comprehensive listing of what's available. So if you are just interested in perusing what might be available for long-term loan, which means you can keep the equipment for absolutely as long as you need it, just with the understanding that if you no longer need it someday, maybe you can return it so that we can make it available to somebody else in the future. And I mentioned briefly our assistive technology financial loan program, but to go in a little bit more depth, this is a low interest loan program. Right now, interest rates are at 3%, and it can cover absolutely any type of assistive technology. It can also include home modifications for accessibility. So that could be like the installation of a ramp, widening of a doorway, the purchase and installation of stair lifts, anything like that. And for home modification loans, there's a cap of $20,000 and up to 7 years repayment. And then for the adapted vehicle loans, we were able to up our loan amount to $70,000 recently, and with up to a 10 years repayment. Some restrictions do apply. So if you are interested in learning more or applying for a loan, definitely reach out to our loan program staff. You can find their contact information on our website. I will also put my email address in the chat right now. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach directly out to me. And also, just this year, we launched our online application for the financial loan program. So you don't need to wait for the whole snail mail return and exchange process anymore. You can just do it right there online. It's really easy. And also through the Centers for Independent Living, we facilitate a portable ramp loan program. So we've obtained a variety of different portable ramps, ranging from really small little threshold ramps up to 12-foot bariatric ramps, which is, I believe, the longest they come on the market. So these ramps can be borrowed for up to 4 months at a time by people. And you can interface directly with the Center for Independent Living that would serve your county in order to figure out if there's a ramp that would suit your need and how to borrow it. These are really, since the maximum length is 12 feet, they're only appropriate under the ADA for a few stairs, but they can be really, really useful for, you know, if not even home access, for travel, if you're recovering in rehab from an injury or something, or while waiting for funding or other solutions for a permanent ramp. And we're pretty active on social media. We have a blog that we post frequently on, and you know, you can find just all sorts of things from different events and webinars that are happening to articles, you know, examples of new technology. We sometimes have our information technology accessibility folks write articles about how to make sure that your web content and digital content is accessible to like blind and deaf people specifically. We post regularly on Facebook. We have a Twitter that's, you know, somewhat active. The YouTube channel is wonderful. Oh, and we don't look at the TikTok because we've removed that recently. We'll need to update the slide deck. And here on this slide is just the contact information for our general program. We're a pretty small staff, so if you reach out to our general information, someone will get back to you within a day or two maximum. And if you're looking for anyone specific on our team, you can get connected to anyone this way. And that concludes the presentation. So I think we have about 10 minutes left for questions. Let's see what's in the chat.
And I answered one in the chat already, just about insurance. I haven't seen any others come in. I did get a request of the social isolation PowerPoint, so I can send that out to anybody as well. And Richard, I'll send that to you here briefly. And yeah, if there's any other questions really quick, I'll hang on with Nora for a couple more minutes. If there's not, then I appreciate everyone coming, and we can connect in the future at the next one. And Nora and I did put our emails in there, and she's going to send our slide deck from today out to all the attendees, and that'll have our contact information on there as well, in case you missed it in the chat. But that's her and I's personal emails that are in the chat. So if anyone has any further questions, we can always connect via email or phone call later as well. And set up a consultation too. So if anyone wants to come in for a consult, we can always talk more specifically about your individual needs and try to pair you with AT.
All right, great. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And the communication lines are always open, so don't hesitate to reach out. All right, thanks everyone, and thank you, James.
Absolutely, no problem.
Take care.